Hey everyone,
Hey
we're
everyone.
back
Hey,
again.
how you doing?
For this week's hangout. We welcome back Diane Gibbs. How are you,
Hello,
Diane?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing?
We're wonderful.
Yeah, we're good. We've got Tom's scarf for company.
I know, I'm feeling Christmassy over here. Diane, you know you're one of our favorites in the community. We appreciate you coming back on with us.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and y'all are one of my favorites. I'm super excited. I always am super happy to be here for sure.
Awesome.
So today we've got a pretty fun session lined up, right? What are you going to be sharing with us?
We're going to talk about stepping out of your comfort zone, understanding yourself and maybe your superpowers a little bit, so that maybe it's not so scary to either meet people in person or meet people online. And really, it's the power of practice, and you just need to keep doing it over and over. But hopefully it'll be really helpful, because it's really about our businesses. We do business with people we like, know, and trust. And that's what we need to have more people that we like, know, and trust.
Of course. I remember when I started a business very vividly. When I phoned people up, I really struggled, and I had to write a script for my phone conversation and read it out loud before I phoned them up. Isn't that crazy? But
I think you need confidence, right?
You do,
that was your I don't know, pacifier or something, or your blanket. Right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The confidence to go forward. And sometimes we need that. But the more you did it, the more it got to be.
Yeah. And it's even crazy even thinking you'd have to do something like that now. But it's, you're so young,
Yeah.
It is. And I was talking about this yesterday, actually. It makes everything easier. When you have that network of people that you do like, know, and trust, you can just pick up the phone or meet up and organize cool collaborations and projects. And when you don't have that at all, and you've operated like a hermit, it feels like pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so tough.
If you work from home, like I used to do, and in my early 20s, running a business in my early 20s, working from home, never did anything like that before. It was an uphill. It was a real learning curve.
But but now it feels like if I needed something, Tom, I could just call you, or maybe email you, or Facebook message you. Right. But I feel like I can ask you something, or if I need something, I have a question. And I feel like that's what we need. We need it to not feel so hard to connect with other people. I think people are less. I think that's my friend Jody's here. So Jody.
Hey Jody,
hey,
Nashville.
Jody.
What's up?
Hey.
The reason I met her, Tom, is through you.
Oh, really? How come?
Yeah, because she was listening to a Honest Designers podcast, and she then hired me. So I owe her to you, and she's awesome and a super good friend. So she's a huge fan of you, Tom.
Hey Jody, what's up? Okay, so case in point, right? Last time we saw you, I get emails every single week and every day. I've just been deleting a bunch in my inbox of people trying to sell me stuff or talking, and it's kind of spammy, and it's like delete. But if you email me, like, I'm all over that, right? And we want to work with you. And that's partly because last time we saw you, we drank margaritas together, and then ended up like skipping around and having some kind of weird dance off thing.
I'm not quite sure how I didn't.
I did that sober though, because I'm totally like that normally.
And
me too. But that's the difference, right? Like, we have fun.
It was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. I seem to remember that. That was a good night.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was. It's nice to be able to touch you and hug you, right? But we had real conversation that day too. And we've had real conversation online. And I think that's the beautiful part of the internet, is that you can have a really good friend, and then finally you meet in person, and then it's amazing.
Yeah, I've stopped calling Instagram friends.
Just friends, right?
And it happens more and more that, people come over here, we go over there, and get to hang out.
Yeah, for sure.
You need to come over here, Diane.
Absolutely.
I'd love to come over.
The office.
I know. I'll just pack in Allie's bag next year.
Yeah. Just sneak in there. Yeah.
I'm little. I can scooch in.
I'm sure customers will be perfectly happy with it. It'll be cool. Very accommodating.
Is this illegal?
Yeah. I'm sure it's fine. Sure.
So Diane, I think you've got a pitch deck type thing today.
I do.
On
all right.
Subject.
Are you ready?
Can't wait to see it.
Here we go.
Okay. I'm selecting my screen. Okay, here we go.
Amazing.
All right. So this is about stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's to grow your network, which I don't really like the word network, but we're going to get to that in a minute. And it's really building your business, because building your business doesn't happen overnight, right? This happens it's a long-term thing. And so you have to do things today that will help your business tomorrow or next year, things like that. All right, so we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I went to school for design. Then I worked as a designer in Denver for 5 years, and then I really felt called to be a teacher, professor of design, because it really made a huge difference in my life. And so then I came and I got my master's, and then I moved to Mobile, Alabama, and I teach at the University of South Alabama. But as a teacher, as a professor, we have to do research. If I was a biologist, I'd be cutting up frogs and I don't know, publishing my research. Well, for me, I just have to win awards. I have to do design work. I have to have client work. I have to do whatever that is, do presentations. And I had been doing that since 2003. In 2012, I was really kind of getting burned out, and I started a podcast. I didn't really know it was a podcast at that point. It was just a web show that you could come on. It was like this, where there was a chat window and people could come in. And I would interview people, and I called it Design Recharge, because I really needed a recharge for my design. I was interacting with a lot of students, but I didn't have time because I had a very busy client work. And so I didn't have time to go to meetings. There wasn't any meetings where I was living. And so like an AIGA or Creative Mornings or anything like that. I'm not sure what y'all have over there, but do you have something that you can go to on a monthly basis or whatever?
I know you'd be surprised how little we have in this country.
There are those kind of things, and I went to one once, and it was a bit scary. It was really like 6 o'clock in the morning as well, and like it's just a bit, a bit weird.
The Americans know how to do it, right?
Master the plans, kind of thing. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I really needed to learn more. I needed to be around other designers that were really inspiring. So I just asked I've done it on a bunch of different platforms, but the one thing that was a non-negotiable for me was that I had to have a live audience all the time. And that was really important, because I didn't want it just to be for me. I wanted it to be for everybody. And if they wanted to ask a question, they could. So anyway, hey, look, there's me and Tom. And then Lisa's on there, and Dustin. And man, I've asked Ian. He said yes. We just can't get it together. So hopefully one day but I've interviewed people. I think this week was 322. I interviewed Dustin again. This was my last interview for the year. And then I'll have one more episode next week. But it's on Wednesdays. It's always on Wednesdays at 2:30 Eastern time, 11:30 Pacific. I think that means it's 7:30 p.m. y'all's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, so I've interviewed people from all different backgrounds doing all different things, people who have degrees, people who don't have degrees, just people who are doing something inspiring. So one of the things I wanted to tell you is that I wanted you to know that what I feel like I am is one of these people at the bottom. Can you guys see my mouse?
No.
Okay.
We can see your screen.
All right. So you see all the people at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
That's me. Not really, but you're
very strong.
You are.
What I love to do is be a bottom cheerleader. And what I love to do with our community is lift other people up. And that's what I get to do with Design Recharge. But I actually don't think you have to have a platform or a podcast to be able to do this. You can actually promote other people and give them love on Instagram or whatever, and you can connect them with somebody else. And so I feel like being a bottom cheerleader is a lifter. And that's one of the main things I'm going to talk about today, because everybody needs to get lifted sometimes, right?
For sure.
So 2 really good bottom cheerleaders are Dave Clayton. He's one of y'all. And then Chris Doe. And Chris is in LA, not Lower Alabama, but LA, Los Angeles, California. And then Dave's in the UK also. And both of these people are lifters. They really take somebody and they make them realize what they're great at. My friend, who I'll get to in a minute, calls this a different Jody, calls it you're being a gold digger. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But I think it's really important that you understand how to use your superpower and understand what it is. For me, my superpower wasn't my amazing illustration skills, which they're not that amazing. I'm being sarcastic. or my design skills. Really, it was always about people. And for a long time, I didn't really know how to use it. It felt like it was this thing that didn't fit. And I always felt kind of out of the loop. But now I really understand how this is something unique. And it's really been able to help me help a lot of other people. And I love doing that. That's so makes my life so much happier. So my spirit animal is the beaver, which I will show you a little beaver that I had one of my friends made for me. And I'm going to tell you why. The beaver is an animal that is a community person. He or she builds these dens in the winter and lets all these other animals come in and live, which I think is amazing. Well, another thing a beaver is known for, I don't know if y'all have beavers over there, do you?
Yeah, we've got beavers that have been reintroduced, I think, to parts of the country. Not loads of them, but, we've got a few of them.
So they like, if people don't know, they take a stream and then they dam it up and then they make a big pond and ecosystems happen. And there was a place in Colorado where if they didn't have beavers, all these deer and all this wildlife would have died because the beavers had made an ecosystem where everybody could live. And a beaver is known as a hard worker, busy like a beaver, right? Mm-hmm. So again, they help all kinds of animals, egrets and raccoons and deer and all other kind of birds and rabbits and things like that.
Super cute, by the way.
Absolutely.
So this is, I think, an important thing about community is it's like a good bra. It's supportive in all the right ways. And so again, about being a bottom cheerleader means that I'm not the one focused. You guys might be a little too young to remember this, but there was Madonna wore a cone bra one time.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, it was so shocking. Most of the time people can't remember what song she was singing. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, Matt's like, okay, you just raised your hands. Yeah, I didn't know.
I just saw Dave pop up.
Yeah, Dave Clayton. Hey, Dave. I don't know if he was here. He got referenced a few minutes ago. Don't know if you saw that, Dave, but hey, what's up?
Hey, Dave.
We have another Dave reference a little bit later.
We love being supportive here as well, right? We get a lot out of it. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
the community and helping people.
But think about it. If I had worn my bra on the outside of my shirt today, nobody would be listening to me. It's kind of like the cone bra. We don't even know what she was singing, but it was really, it was so shocking. So a bra has a place, right? And that's where everybody has people that they're supposed to lift, but not take the attention from. So my superpower isn't being able to juggle a lot of things, although that is something that we all do as designers or if we're running a business. But it really has been about observing and listening and assisting. It's not spelling because I misspelled assisting earlier. So, but I fixed it. I think that's how you spell it. Whatever. We're going to go quicker.
I'm always picked up my spelling as well as a designer. I'm useless.
So I love this quote by David Viscott, and he says, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And this is so important and so much how I live my life. I just love this. So I think you have to act on the needs of others, and then you have to practice it over and over and over. And I think Dave does this so well. So my friend Jody Miller, she's called me a gold digger, and I was like, do you know what a gold digger is? Because I know my husband's 12 years older than me, but I don't think he's not a millionaire. Didn't marry him for his money. And so she's like, no, Diane, you can find the gold in people who other people might have overlooked. And you can dig down and you can find it. So what I'm going to tell you today is some of the ways that you can also be a gold digger. I love that we're kind of taking something that was negative to be something that's way more positive, I think, because I think we all have this gold in us. And a lot of times we forget it's there and we don't know how to mine it. And so sometimes we need help from those bottom cheerleaders to mine it out. And it's just about really not being so selfish, but really loving on other people and helping them find their gold. So I really think that networking is not the term I like. I really think it's just about making friends. Like Tom said earlier, it's not Instagram friends anymore. It's just friends, right? But the thing is, and I think Dave and I do this really, just a little too there. I think we do this well, right? My friend, whenever I say something about my friend Tara's always like, toot, toot. I was like, you're tooting your own horn, Diane. But I think that I'm making friends. I'm not making friends with Tom or Matt because I want something from them. Not at all. I'm just making friends with them because I know that everybody has gold in them. And that means that you're not going into a relationship with an ulterior motive. I don't know if I use that word.
And Diane, people can tell when you have an ulterior motive. They really can. Yeah. They can see through it. It becomes very apparent. And so I talked about this. Scotty Russell had me on a call with his guys this week, and we got into this. And you have to be like making friends so proactively and giving so proactively without motive. Because can you imagine having a spreadsheet or something where it's like, hold on, I've been pretty friendly towards this person and it's been 5 weeks and they haven't done something back for me? That would be crazy. And so the way I just kind of believe in the net benefit of it. So if you just put it out there and you put it out there and you put out positivity and you make friends, maybe 99% of those people you never get anything from, but who cares? And you've kind of forgotten it. Yeah, you just enjoy it. And I believe it comes back to you. Like I believe in the karma of it.
Yeah, and people are nice. It's nice to talk to people. It's nice to make friends, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Angela says, Tom and Matt, we are friends. Hell yeah, we are, Angela.
For sure. All right. So this is an interactive part. So Matt and Tom or anybody in the chat. So why are 5 reasons that you want to grow your network? And crickets.
Okay. Yeah, I can give you some. So,
tell me.
One of them, Mischief says, I'm lonely. Sorry to hear that, Mischief. Although Mischief, you said, because earlier you said humans scare you. I want to give you a little challenge. If you feel comfortable, put in the chat your real name as a first step. You don't have to put your photo out there. You don't have to do any of that. Leela. There you go.
Hey, Leela.
Yeah, Leela, great name. Nice to meet you, Leela. Anyway, that was a side note. But in terms of growing the network, part of mine is that none of my friends do anything remotely similar to what I do. So I never have anyone to geek out with and talk about it. That is truly one of my reasons.
I think, I really like people. I like talking to people and I really like helping people. And I like helping people on their journey, especially designers, because I know all the mistakes that I made. And I can just go, hey, you don't need to do that. You just do this, this, and this, and it works. And then you'll get more out of your design. You'll get more out of your life. And I get a big kick out of teaching, actually. It's really enjoyable.
So think about, Tom, why you started Honest Designers, right? Y'all were just meeting because you wanted some people who you could connect with and talk to, other entrepreneurs that were doing well with design cuts that were kind of, you wanted to know how, and then you guys were like, well, this is so good. We should share this. This shouldn't be something that we just keep to ourselves, right?
For sure.
So, but think about when you're starting out or when you have changed, change careers or you've pivoted and now you're doing web instead of print. There, you might not know how to really grow and or where to find people. And I think people are everywhere. You just have to start somewhere. So obviously there's lots of reasons to grow. I just wanted you to do 5, but it's totally fine. So would you hire this girl if all you saw was her picture, Tom?
So you have to make a decision, and it has to be yes or no, and you don't get to know anything about her skills,
nothing,
relevance, or her character.
I think she looks friendly. I'm going to say yes.
Okay,
an honest face.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I would go that.
Yeah.
But I don't. So I don't have enough money to hire somebody that I don't know. I don't have enough money to. So y'all are super nice and obviously are just raking it in like Lisa Glanz. I'm just playing. But I mean, she does look super nice, but I need to see people's skills. I need to know that they can deliver. I need to know that she is nice. Like she might be nice looking, but she might be really mean. We can't tell.
The context now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this is sneaky, Diane. Hang on a minute. Where's the context after the question? Whoa,
right.
This is the most brief ever.
Sorry.
You hoodwinked us, Diane.
I did. I know. Based on the brief, and all of a sudden you changed the brief.
But what I'm saying is that you can't tell by looking at somebody, right? So we do business with people we know, like, and trust for sure. So what are 5 situations where you have to step out of your comfort zone? I mean, when I've gone to a wedding by myself, that can be, so it doesn't always have to be business wise.
I've got a corker this year because I'm probably going to go to Tom's wedding on my own. And that's going to definitely be stepping out of my comfort zone, because I was in a long-term relationship. I'm no longer in that relationship. I'm now on my own. So that's definitely going to be out of my comfort zone.
That will be fun.
So yeah, it will be fun. I might take my daughter with me as well as my guest.
Yeah,
that would definitely be stepping out of my comfort zone. She's like not even 5 yet.
But there are lots of ways within our business that we also have to step out. Sometimes it's sending an email, and it may be nothing to somebody else, but it's really important for us. Or it's sending out it's doing a post that you really feel like you're putting on your heartstrings on your sleeve, right? Yeah. So there's lots of different ways that people have to do this. Well, so I want you guys, when you do this, I want you to write down what the situation is, what it is. So for Matt, when you're there or you're deciding who's going with you to Tom's wedding, I want you to write down the situation, like Tom's wedding. And then I want you to write down what your body feels like and where in your body do you feel it. So if it's anxiety, so you even thinking about it might get you kind of like really tightness in your chest, or
sure.
I know Dustin's talks about he has like in his gut, he just
it's always my gut for me. Butterflies in the tummy is generally where I get it. You know, a little bit queasy, a bit not quite right with the situation.
But if you start noticing and writing down the situation, this is just a feeling, and sometimes you have to just lean into fear. And I read a book this summer called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And he really talks about, in one chapter, he said, fear and excitement are the same chemical reaction or whatever in your body. And that fear means you're holding your breath, and excitement is that you're breathing through it. So you need to just continue to breathe and get oxygen to those parts of your body so that you realize that this is just a feeling. This is not something maybe that's really happening, because anxiety can be really overtaking. So what are 5 reasons? I'm going to give them to you, but you want to just guess first. There's no wrong answers.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure's got to be right up there, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. Anybody else?
Fear of judgment, maybe.
Yeah, fear of being embarrassed, I guess.
Totally.
Fear of not being good.
Not being getting up to that level, I guess, in whatever situation.
Change. Not liking the idea of change, maybe.
And the unknown. People are generally scared of the unknown and unknown situation. What will happen next?
And another one. So one is fear of success. I love that. Imposter syndrome. So you're going to get found out, right?
Sure.
Fear of rejection. There's fear of being judged or criticized. You guys said that if I go up to somebody, or if I send them an email, or I respond to their Instagram, that they won't care because I don't matter, right? And then the last one is getting locked up. So when you are in a in-person or online like this, that you won't know what to say. And that's a huge fear for a lot of people.
Sure.
Diane, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Have you ever had number 5?
I have not. I know that. Have you, Tom?
The more you do these things, the easier it gets. I was terrified the first time I started doing these with Tom, because it gets easier. Just wasn't my job. I'd never done it, but it gets easier and easier and more enjoyable as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I think one of my tricks, and I did this with Christo in the beginning, is that I just kept turning it around. I don't do it on purpose. I just naturally want to know about the other person I'm talking to. So these are a little bit uncomfortable for me. But at least I feel like it's more important for me to get this out there to help somebody than it is for me to like twist it around. And I remember one time I was in therapy and we were trying to find a therapist because my parents thought we could get me healed in 3 months. I thought that was hilarious, but whatever. And so I was like, well, I had this test, and if I could talk to them and ask them more questions than they asked me, then it was not going to work. Right. And that there was this man in Atlanta, and he talked the whole time. I just kept asking him questions. I was like, that guy's not going to work. And so then I got to choose my own therapist, which I think is hilarious, and it was very helpful. But when you can switch it, right, it's hard. A lot of times most people want to talk about themselves. So it's really something that if you're interested in them, they will love it. My husband says that it's like I'm an interrogator because I'm asking so many questions, right? Matt, that might have felt uncomfortable in the beginning, but if you have somebody that you're trying to ask questions to, it's not about you anymore. It's about them.
No,
And you're
absolutely, yeah. And the
lifting
people we
them
have
up.
on here are so interesting that it's just a joy doing these. This is the favorite part of my job now, pretty much. It's just brilliant. I look forward to each of these. I look forward to all of our webinars, all of our events. It's just brilliant. Just
Right,
brilliant.
because you're meeting people and you're lifting them up. You're asking
people as well, like
right.
Tom said, fellow designers, and you get to geek out over design and branding and all the stuff that really gets me going. And it's just, just brilliant fun, and they're all lovely.
Right, exactly. Okay, so here's something else you could write down. So if you guys are watching along or you want to do this. So out of these 5 things, which do you struggle with the most? So it's the same things I already listed, but in what order is the one? So both of y'all said fear of success first. So that is a really big one for a lot of people. But if you had to order these in an order, and you don't have to use all of them, I would not put number 5 in mine, but there, some of those might be different. And this isn't, you don't have to share that, but it just, it's something for people to do so that you know which one is the one that you do struggle with, because sometimes there's things in your head that are not true that you're telling yourself, right?
Sure.
Okay. So this is a interactive thing. So after 2 hours of socializing at a party, and you're out with friends, or you're at a business function, are you feeling depleted and drained, or are you energized? Tom, what about you?
Well, I know where Tom goes.
You'd be surprised.
Really, because you look like number 2 most of the time. You're like the Energizer Bunny after, especially in the early hours of the morning.
I'm an ambivert, so for me, I'm very hyper and energized in the moment, which Diane, because we were like the same last time we chatted. Right. And then like immediately afterwards, I feel very energized, but then I'll need to recoup my energy and go away and have some alone time. So I'm not like, I need both basically.
Yeah. So for me, it totally depends on the people in the situation as to how comfortable I feel, because if I feel comfortable, it will energize me. But if I don't, because of the people, it will do exactly the opposite. And I'll generally tend to retreat back into myself and just get quite quiet.
That's so normal too, right? So that really has to do with introvert and extrovert. Introvert is not meaning that you're shy, right? It's just saying that when you're around people, even if it's a larger group of people, that you feel energized. So for Matt, if it's people he knows, and then it's easy. He doesn't feel drained.
People I don't know, it's different. For sure.
Because it's more work, right? Because you have to do more things. And an extrovert feels energized. Sorry. So if you were pretending like you were introducing your best friend to the group, how would you describe them, and what would you say is their superpower? So Tom, I don't know who your best friend is, but do you have a best friend?
Nick.
Okay. So you're introducing Nick to this group. How would you describe him fairly quickly, or unless Nick's a girl? And then what would you say is their superpower?
He's very funny, smart, and he's just got a great character. I know that's kind of 3.
That's good. So again, you're lifting him up when you're introducing him to other people. Matt, what would you say? Who's your best friend?
That's a really difficult one. I've got a lot of really lovely friends. So I think Susie's probably springs to mind first, and she's kind and she's generous and she's funny. And I think empathy is probably her superpower. Definitely,
I love that.
Because she's just really just a lovely person.
Besides having to pick one of your awesome friends, was this hard for you to do?
No.
Right. So because you're talking about somebody else, and I think that this again is this key to this. So do you consider yourself fearless, Matt?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Okay, Tom.
No, but I make a habit of doing the stuff that scares me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it scares me, so by definition, I have fear.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So as a kid, were you fearless, Matt?
No, definitely not. No, I'm definitely not a risk taker in nature. I have to push myself, but in the same as Tom, I do push myself to take those risks, like running a business, going freelance, all the rest of it. Yeah.
How about you, Tom? Were you fearless as a kid?
Maybe when I was very, very young, but I don't think so. I remember skateboarding. Yeah. I was scared of hurting myself most of the time.
Yeah, like gravel, right? Gravel stuck in the knee. Nobody wants that.
I wasn't one of those people that just kept falling over.
Yeah.
And like,
when I go snowboarding, I get to the top and go, I'm going to really hurt myself if I go down that run. But that one, I can cruise down that'll be really nice.
So can you both ride a bike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I don't know. Y'all might not ride bikes over there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But anyway, so I think as a kid, we fall down a lot of times when we're learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
So why do we expect that we're not going to fall down when we're doing something new in our business? Why do we expect that it should be perfect the first time? Nobody gets on their bike and just cranks. And as a kid, we just know it. We fall and we get back up, fall and we get back up. And that's the fearlessness I'm wanting you guys to kind of embrace, is that as a kid, if something didn't happen, it wasn't this, I'm never going to do this again kind of feel. Because when we're fearful, that is how we turn. If we have a bad experience, we turn away and never experience it again. So a lot of it, just like riding a bike, is the power of practice, right? And just so you know, all this little pattern you see is the inside of an envelope, because I love the inside of envelopes. Isn't that awesome?
Nice.
It is.
Do you see the little envelope design in there also? Like,
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like there's a bird. Anyway, I didn't make it. It was just, anyway, little fun fact.
It's nice.
Okay, so when people are put into groups of 3 or 4, so smaller groups, and they're instructed that there's 2 rules: that they cannot talk, they cannot introduce themselves, but they must make eye contact. What do you think happens in a group like this?
So they can't talk either, you said.
They can't talk.
But they just got to look at each other.
They've got to look at
Eye
each
to
other.
eye.
So there's empathy that happens at that situation. It also, they try, they smile, they use non-verbal cues to connect, because you have been put into this group. You don't know these people, but you're trying to connect. Now, if I said you can use your phones, right? Most people would go straight and do something. They would do something that they're comfortable with. They would look down and turn into themselves. But if this was the prompt that you had to look at other people, it can be, this is a really good exercise for people who are uncomfortable. Like, instead of running to your phone, like when you're in line, that you like make small talk with somebody at the grocery store. Or what do y'all call the grocery store? The grocery store?
You know, someone talked to me at the garage filling my car up with petrol at like 6:30 this morning, and it was really lovely. They were just like, we just had a chat, and it was just put a big smile on both of our faces, made the day.
See, but it's just like, those are safe people to just try with. You might never see that guy at the gas station,
No, never
right?
see them ever again, but they were just, we just had a chat.
Right. All right. So here's Dave Clayton back. So you guys will have to have Dave on to tell about this story, and I'm probably going to butcher it if he's still on. But his friend, I can't remember if his friend's Tim or Michael. But anyway, his best friend would take him. He would do these group things or whatever. And I don't know if he was showing people real estate, but he was always an extrovert for sure. And Dave wasn't. And he would, his friend, Tim, let's just call him, would bring Dave in, and then they would all be, I don't know if it was like a business networking or whatever, but he would introduce Dave as like
the friend Michael, he said in the chat.
Michael.
And it was
Okay,
a corporate event. There you go.
Okay. And it was a what? A corporate thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so and it would be like a lot of other people around, and he would be like, "Hi, this is my friend Jimmy. He's an electrician, or he's an engineer," and he was talking about Dave, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, I've just got to make it up," because then you had to say something about yourself or whatever. So I actually turned this into an exercise because I thought it was so good. Because really, it's about thinking on your feet. It really is. Improv, right? But you can be anybody you want to be. Matt, this morning you could have been anybody. You could have tried to put on a Southern accent with that guy. Be like, hey, dude.
My Southern accent stinks.
Well, you could practice, right?
We've got a bit of filming from Creative South where you were doing a Southern accent, right? And Ali was doing an English accent.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
All
hilarious.
right,
So we need to all right. We really need to post that, right? It's brilliant.
But it's one of those things that really, if you are being somebody else, I think that this is a really important way to just know that these people are probably never going to see you again. And I always wondered, I was like, Dave, did you ever come out to those people and be like, hey, my name's not Jimmy, and I'm not an electrician? And he's like, yes. Afterwards, I always told people that, this is just my friend. Michael was just pushing me to do. And I think by Michael doing this so many times, he wasn't always Jimmy. He was always somebody new. And he always just had to think on his feet. That it made it, when he was talking about himself, it made it easier, I think. I just love that exercise. I think people can get into the body of somebody else and be somebody else if they don't really feel like they're never going to see these people. You could really be somebody that, you could be anybody.
I love that. And I remember one of my former best friends, we were out one night having a few drinks, and I went out to the outside area of the bar, and he had this large circle of people listening to him, hanging off every word. And I just thought, that's weird. And then I got a bit closer, and I was like, is he speaking in a South African accent? And he was, and he was very good at accents. So it's just an English bloke. And he was giving them this whole backstory about South Africa that didn't exist. And I just thought, what are you on about? And they were like fascinated by it.
I think that sometimes it's good just to pretend and practice. And there are people that you probably will never see again. I'm not saying be in, like lie to people, but I think stepping into, like, if you had a group or you did a workshop or something like this is a really good exercise in a workshop because everybody's having to be somebody new. But I think it's good to practice. Just like Matt this morning, you could have totally been somebody else at the gas station, right?
If I fill up my car with petrol and I look over and Matt speaking in a Southern American accent to someone, that will make my day. I'll be like, this is the weirdest morning ever.
Right. But it brings joy, right? Then you could be like, hey, I'm just practicing. Yeah. I'm working on stepping out of my comfort zone. All right. So here are 8 things that you can do before either you do something online that is uncomfortable with new people. Pardon?
I'm going to get the giggles at this rate. Go and carry on. Sorry.
All right. So these are things that you could do online or when you're in person before you do this. So Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors. She's written a ton of books. She's in Texas, and she's a doctor of psychology. She does a lot of studies about amazing things. And I'm not a parent, but she writes a lot of stuff about parenting. I still think it's amazing. So she talks about that our self-talk can be very detrimental. It's something that I'm really working on. And I've really been, she's really helped with this in just what she teaches. And so having a positive self-talk instead of saying, like she says, that sometimes we talk to ourselves worse than we would ever talk to our best friend. We say things to ourselves that are so mean that we would never say to another human, even if it was somebody we didn't like. So we need to stop ourselves and say, we can do this. You can do this. You can do this, right? Whatever it is, you need to stop that negative self-talk. I also think this totally looks like I think he's like from Russia, maybe. I don't know. Like his little, it looks like, I don't know what his socks say, but maybe he's Brit, right? Who knows? But he's playing football, as y'all call it. We call it soccer. But he's visualizing. Look at this kid. He is totally like, I am going to just crank this ball across this field. And I think we need to use the power of that visualization more, even in interactions. Like, I'm going to email Tom, and Tom is going to email me back. Or it's somebody that I don't know, right? Like, that I really want. Like, he is going to finally reply to my email, or if I see him in person, he's not going to walk away as I walk up, right? Like, you visualize it because it does really help. I mean, sports
people
never
walk away from you, Diane.
Sports people do this all the time. I don't know why we don't do this in our business. Actually, we more than often visualize people not doing something negative to us, right? Oh, he's never going to pay, or I can't even get him to reply to an email, or right. You've done work for somebody and then they're really having a hard time paying, or you've just turned something over to them and they're looking at it for the first time. And your first thought is they're going to hate this logo, right? Maybe it's just me. Are y'all like that?
Yeah, I think it can be human nature.
Yeah, I think I was quite positive when I ran my business. It was odd. I never treated anyone like they were going to, be negative towards me. And I always treated everyone like a friend. And that really helped. I just built the business then to a network of people through just recommendations. That was the only marketing I did. It worked really well.
Well, that's good.
Which is great. But I remember pushing something over and saying, they're not going to like it. And I remember putting a price over and saying it's going to be too high.
Happen, right?
And it would be that delay. You're waiting to hear back on the email. And it's like,
that's the worst. That delay.
Time slows down.
Yeah, it's like anything. You're visualizing what the negative things the person could say.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
and I think,
it's like, oh, it's fine. Okay, cool.
And I think it's really about visualizing what that feeling is when the good thing really does happen.
Yeah.
I think this kid totally already has a smile on his face. He's like, I'm going to crank it. Right. Mm-hmm. So visualizing a successful interaction. this is one I really have a hard time with, but it's meditating. And so it really makes me anxious to do yoga or meditation. And I know Dustin's really talked to me. He's like, Diane, it's really helpful. And I'm like, okay, it makes me really even more anxious to try to meditate.
That's because you have to stop for 20 minutes. I can't imagine that.
Stay still.
Right. So I do have like a little mantra that I say. My dad used to tell me. There was this book when I was a kid and he read it, and it was like The Little Engine That Could. Did y'all have that book?
I don't remember. No.
Anyway, he could get up the hill, and it was all of his friends couldn't do it, but he's like, I think I can. And so that was kind of the premise. So I don't have the I think I can. I actually like to say I can do it. Not I know I can do it, but I can do it, because I think it's just about like, you can do this, Diane. Nothing's holding you back. Just you can do this. And I think it's just about pushing forward. So I kind of use this meditation, but I think really it's important to deep breathe, to stop. I am working on that. I don't have all these things done. The other thing is the power pose. Do you guys know who Amy Cuddy is? She's done a TED Talk. It's an amazing TED Talk. Mm-hmm. Matt's shaking his head.
I've heard about I've heard about the power pose. Don't like politicians use it before they do their talks and stuff. They strike a pose and off they go.
But it could be anything. So even blind people who have never had sight, when they win at a race, they put their arms up in a big V. So they've never seen anybody do it. You are making yourself as big as possible, right? Because you're so happy. This is actually your like cortisol, serotonin, all that stuff changes. And even if it's just for a short amount of time, this having your hands on your hips is also a power pose. Anything that
it feels good.
Right. This is never, you should never do this when you're interacting with somebody in person. Put your arms, cross your arms in front of you. It's a barrier, right? So you really have to be, but this actually increases your serotonin or decreases your I don't know what the word, I'm not a scientist, remember. Anyway.
Next time I go to a social event, I'm just going to walk into the middle of a crowd, put my hands on my hips and say, good day, my name's Dave Clayton, and just give them a whole backstory.
That's right. But for
my friend Diane Gibbs.
Yes, hello.
But for people who are like Matt, if you're at his wedding and you went totally alone, you could use this power pose, even just when you're sitting, sit with your if you're sitting and you put your foot on your other knee. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like my dad says like that.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. That's even a power pose, or just having one hand on a hip. This will actually help you. It's like a trick. It's a cheat. You can actually feel better if you just hold a pen in your mouth or a pencil in your mouth. People feel happier by doing that. There's a lot of these little tricks that you can do that I think are really helpful. So I think power posing is really good. Standing versus sitting. I am not sitting. Y'all are sitting, I think, because you have to get real close. And I'm probably moved too much. But when I'm online and I'm meeting with somebody, I really find it really helpful to meet if I'm standing, especially if I'm nervous at all. Y'all are real close with that scarf. But you know what I mean? Like this is something that maybe you do a standing desk and then you stand versus sitting. So these are little hacks that you could do.
Standing in meetings is really powerful. If you want to feel empowered in a meeting, standing up is a really good way of doing it because everybody pays attention.
Especially if you're nervous, or if you're doing a pitch for somebody, even if it's online.
Standing up. Yeah.
Right. If you're pitching something, you're going to go through a deck of logos for people. I would suggest you standing up.
Oh yeah, on a whiteboard and just make some things and just point. Pointing's really good as well. Get your whiteboard because it's like a crutch. You can use it and say, "I'll do this and this and this." And
that's right. Yeah. That's right. That's totally right. So here's another trick. If you have an animal, dogs are good at this, but there is a point. But look how dogs stare, right? If you stare at a dog, now there is a point where you can stare too long. So please don't do that. They will see that as aggression. But most of the time, sometimes it's uncomfortable for people to just look at other people in people's eyes, right? So do this with your dog or your animal, I guess. Cats are like, whatever, you will blink first, right? They are not going to blink. You need to blink first with a cat for sure. But with a dog, there's a point where they'll be like, they're at first they're like, oh, you love me. You're just looking at my eyes. And then it gets to a point where if you've stared too long at a dog, they will bite you. So don't do that. But you can practice with a dog, and because they will give you the eye contact, and then it's safe, right? Or you could do it in the mirror if you don't have a dog. Or this is a kind of random one. It's not a beautiful book, but man, for people who don't read body language well, this is a really good book for if you need more to know what to say in if you're really, really shy, or you really have trouble coming up with questions to ask or talk to people. This face reading gives you some hints into what things you could ask about. I have tons of lines on my forehead, and I had a client who did face reading, and she was doing it for, she sold real estate, and she was really bad at reading body language, so this really helped her to close more deals. And she said, Diane, did things come easy to you? And I was like, what? No, they did not come easy to me. Nothing's ever come easy. I had to work really hard in school or whatever. And she's like, I can tell because you have these lines. And now I'm like, I'm proud of my lines now, right? I don't wear makeup, so it's really useless for me to try to cover it up. But people who read faces for a living are lawyers, or y'all call them something else. What do you call them?
Yeah, lawyers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lawyers here too.
Okay, so when you're like doing a jury selection, they'll have somebody who reads faces and to come in and read some of the jurors and then cut people based on certain things. So it's really interesting, kind of a weird little hint there. But anyway, so you could work on reading body language, read books, or watch some things, go through some exercises like that, and face reading. And then the other thing is just simply to smile. If you smile, most of the time people will smile back. They're not like, what are you smiling at? Right? Like,
sure.
They don't. So it's really important just to smile. So I've been asked this a lot. So how do I know what questions to ask? Most of the time I'm able to get really close with somebody fairly quickly. I'm not trying to. Again, I'm not going to use it for anything. But I think here's some of the keys. I think you need to be genuinely interested. If you're thinking about what you're going to say next, that's not genuine interest. I want you to be curious, just like a kid is curious, right? And then I want you to let the conversation be about them. So it's not about what you're going to say next. I mean, obviously, conversation is a two-way street, right? But you're asking questions because you want to get to know them. I want you to treat them like an old friend. I think, Tom, you do this really well online. You talk to people and you are genuinely trying to help, but you are asking questions so that you can help them more, right? And then you're listening and you're trying to find ways to connect. So I just love this picture of this kid. He's totally staring at my eyes, right? His eyebrows show interest. That's where the face reading, maybe you don't realize how your face is reading. I have some kids who really have this kind of resting witchy face, right? And I'm like, you have got to work on your facial expressions, because I do not know if you are mad at me. And they were like, no, this is just my face. I was like, you need to work on that because it's really important in a meeting. People are reading you. And even if it's when you're just meeting or when you're going through something else, I know I got it. So I want you to go deeper, ask different kinds of questions. I'm so sorry. I know we're almost out of time.
No, that was just clearing my throat. That wasn't like, come on, Diane, get a move on.
He does this to me all the time. But I'm finished.
No, this is fascinating. And whenever we talk to you, I'm not surprised that you're a teacher, because I feel like I'm back at school, but in the best way, like in a real engaging classroom.
And safe for everyone.
Oh, well, okay, good. All right. So I think people need to connect by sharing. Appropriate to the conversation, a fear or vulnerability. So if I was going to ask you to share something, so Matt has already done that. He's already opened up a vulnerability. He shared something that he is going to was in a long-term relationship and now is not. That was a vulnerability.
Sure,
and that was really
so different, you know?
But now I feel like I can connect with Matt better than if he hadn't shared that. So now I've been able to use it, but not use it against like, haha, Matt, he's right. No, like it's an empathy and it's connecting like, wow, I really appreciate that you were bold enough to share that. And I think most people will, especially in a conversation. It's not like you walk up.
Important to share. You know, I think it's really important to share these things and not be afraid just to tell people what's going on in your life, because, yeah, you're right. You do make connections that way. And it's, you know, it's a shame to, you know, keep it all hidden away.
Right. And I think a lot of people do. We had an opportunity and you took it, Matt. I said, oh, well, you're at a wedding. And then you took it to something where you could actually understand and you were sharing a vulnerability. It was appropriate to the conversation. It wasn't like the first thing Matt said when he came on today is, oh, you know what? I'm scared about going to Tom's wedding on my own, right? That would be weird. So you have to understand something. But I think that if you're talking about business or you're talking about design or something that you're having trouble with, I think it's really important to ask some questions. So when was the last time, this is another question for y'all, when was the last time you asked a question that revealed your lack of knowledge? So in something that you're supposed to be an expert at, like it was in a meeting with Tom and Tom's like, dude, why don't you know the answer to that? Not really, right? Tom would never say that. But do you know when the last time you asked a question that revealed your lack of knowledge?
Yeah, this morning.
At the gas station? I'm just kidding.
At the gas station, I'm trying to think for me, but we do between us quite a lot, don't we? Because our skill set has got, I get a lot of knowledge off of Tom because he's got more of a marketing slant to his brain than I have, but I still do the marketing side of things, but not in the same way that he does. So I'm very happy to pick his brain on lots of things. Yeah.
And I do with Matt with design, but this morning I had a meeting with our head of operations and I was digging into stuff about processes and operations, which are not my favorite thing in the world. Yeah. Because I was like, I need some of your brain on this.
I think we've surrounded ourselves here with lots of people who are better at stuff than we are, if that makes sense. And I think when you're running a business, it's so important to go, hey, wow, your idea is really good. We're going to run with that. Or I don't know how to do this. How do you think we should do it? You've got more experience. And then that's the quickest way to get that experience yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also it's even with clients, you know, you can ask them about their customers or ask them, you don't know because you know certain things. And I mean, even with my friend Jody, I've said, I don't know. And she's taught me things. And I think that sometimes just revealing that it really takes a lot of not confidence, but just you're curious and it's more important for you to know the answer than for you to look good. Right. I think it's just kind of a silly thing that we feel like we should know, and then people will think bad of us if we ask. So I think that that's important. When people are in small groups and they're asked to share something that they struggle with, it actually bonds them closer together. When I've led workshops, it's hard to get them to stop. I'm like, oh, this is going on too long. Like it's good, but it bonds them closer together. So if you're ever doing a workshop, you want to keep that same small group together so that they can continue to build off of that. And I think having them share something that they struggle with is a really good idea. So sharing leads to more sharing. So you can always ask something safe. You're asking the expert, right? This could be you see somebody eating a burger or, you know, a fish taco or something, and you're like, hey, is that good? Would you order it again? And people feel good because you asked them. They're like, oh, I'm the expert, right? So if I asked you what your process is for billing, Matt, when you were a freelancer, you would be able to tell me because clearly you were able to make a living. You were providing for your family. You could, right? We all have this. So this is an easy question to ask. And if they're not in design but they're in a business, you could maybe ask something. So just you're asking them to make them feel like, that you know that they know they might do something different, right? It's not necessarily that they know more. It's just going to be different. There's not a good or right answer in there. So how do you determine, this is another question for y'all, how do you determine if somebody's good in our industry? But if you're walking up to somebody, just like the girl, okay, I don't want to like throw you under the bus again. So if we're at a conference, how do you know if somebody's good?
Well, it's usually reputation based, isn't it? If you haven't seen their work, again, I haven't got all the parameters.
But that's exactly it. You
where I'm aware in this time of. Can't you get me?
I have a slightly different answer. So,
okay.
I love people, but it's quite rare that I meet people that I think like, wow, you're incredibly sharp, and like. unbelievably switched on. Like, you know, people can be lovely, they can be skilled and so on, but like Rupert that we work with, like one of our business partners, I'm like, damn, like this guy is like switched on.
You know, when you feel like your processor just isn't running at the same speed as someone else sometimes, that's Rupert.
And like,
I need to overclock my own processor just to speed up. Yeah,
I talk to a lot of people, and you can tell there's some that stand out where you just can tell they know what they're talking about, and they are an expert and they're amazing at what they do. And you can tell when people are kind of fronting on it a little bit, and that doesn't make them a bad person, but you can kind of see through it.
But you can't tell from looking. Unless you know what they look like and you've seen them and you've done your research. You can't even tell. I mean, you can tell from a conversation, but how do you know if you're so online, you can tell a little bit more, right? And you could go up to somebody, or you could start a conversation with somebody. But I know I've been stopped because I thought somebody was too good, right? So I was like, oh, they'll never talk to me, right? But really, they do. Michael Janda is one example. I was like, he won't, you know, whatever. But he's one of the nicest people ever. I met him I actually didn't get to meet him, but I saw him speak at a conference, and he was just super nice, right? Mm-hmm. But you never know. Nobody's really too good. Hopefully, nobody feels too good. And you just don't know from just looking at them. You do know if you've done your research, maybe, but if you're just at an in-person thing, you have no idea who's good. So other safe questions, you could always ask what you've taught yourself in the last year or more recently. It doesn't have to relate to work. Maybe your best trip you've ever taken. And if you've been talking to them, so now Matt has shared something vulnerable. I could say, well, what's the hardest part of having your daughter alone now, right? When she comes to your house, or if she lives with you.
It was tough for the first time. It was just going out, just doing anything with her on my own. I wasn't used to going out for lunch with her, just anything. But now it's obviously, you know, I'm a good 6 months, 7 months on. It's not really like that. It's much more comfortable, and you know, it's easier because I've done it.
Right,
you know, I've had to do it.
Right. And it's practice, but you would be fine talking to somebody about it if they were going through those early stages.
Yeah. And you want to do, because you want to help someone else to make it easier for them.
But it had to do with you sharing something vulnerable in the beginning. So if somebody shared something vulnerable, maybe ask them, because you also want to make them feel like they're really strong and powerful as well, right? Like that they've made it through, not powerful, like, oh, I will kill you kind of, right? But so I always think that these are self-evaluation. So you don't have to answer these, but maybe if you're doing this at home, what are you an expert at? So sometimes people have a really hard time with this. When I make my students they have to do a 9-minute presentation of something that they're an expert at, I get tears from boys and girls. And they're like, I'm not an expert at anything. I'm like, can you tie your shoes? And they were like, yes. I'm like, then you are an expert at tying your shoes. And it's just about perspective, right? So where do you think you rank in terms of good in your industry? And this has to do with maybe, you know, some people have a little too high of they're not humble enough. And then some people are really, really self-destructive in how they feel. I mean, if Rupert was like, I suck, you'd be like, dude, you do not suck, right? So that's a if he was saying that, he would need to work on other things. But I bet you anything, he probably doesn't think he's a 5 because he's always getting better and he's always pushing himself.
He's a humble person. He just works very hard, and he's a very nice person, really, to the core.
And I bet that, but he probably would not see himself as a 5, right? So if you're in this situation, you're the one on the right, and there's 3 little people together. Do you feel comfortable going up to those 3 people? Tom, would you feel comfortable being alone going up to a group of 3?
Generally not, actually.
Okay. Matt, how about you?
The same. And again, I was at a child's party the other weekend, exactly this kind of situation, group of 3 guys talking, you know, parents who I didn't know that well. And I did walk up to them, and I just stood there and I sidled into the conversation. And it's not the easiest of things to do with 2 people you barely know.
It's not, but it's something. It's something that takes practice. But if you are trying to be one of those lifters, then when you're in a group, always leave a spot for somebody else to come in.
They did. One person spotted me, and he just changed his shoulders, and then that made a bit of a gap, and then people looked at me, and it's a nice thing to do. But that you kind of stand there and wait for someone to do it.
Right. So then where of these 3 situations do you feel most uncomfortable? Going up to a group of 4 to 6, 2 people, 1 person. You need to know what it is, and then you need to face that fear and start doing this. When I've walked up to groups of 4 or 6, most of the time they are they're so scared to go up and meet other people that they're happy to have somebody else come into their group. And then I try to break it up and try to introduce them to other people. It doesn't bother me to go up to any size people, or a group people. One time there was at Creative South last year, there were these 2 guys and they were just standing there, and I asked them, we were talking and I just started talking to them, and then I connected them with somebody else, and I said, how did it make you feel when I came up to you? And they were like, oh, it made me feels really good. I was really thankful that you came up to us. And I was like, well, do you like to make people feel good? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, you go do that to somebody else then. You go, even if it's you 2 together, you go talk to somebody else, because you have to get over your fear of rejection or your fear of failure or whatever. And then you just need to do it, because it will make somebody else feel better than, what do you value? Somebody else feeling better or you feeling comfortable?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Anyway, so next steps, when you're in person, just know how it makes you feel when you're going up to someone or when you're doing something. So things you can do to help you feel better is you can volunteer to help at a conference, or volunteer to hold the door, or to do even whatever. It doesn't matter what kind of event it is. You could volunteer to help. You can also ask somebody for a favor, ask them to borrow a pen, or ask them if you can join them for a meal. Other things you can do is ask for directions, or you can say, where's the bathroom? Even something like that is totally fine. It's just practicing talking to people. Ask them how they liked that fish sandwich or something. So when you go to conferences or groups outside of your industry, you are going to be the expert designer, right? So I would push people to go and make connections with people that are outside their industry, because now when that web designer or that web developer needs a designer, they're going to come to me, right? Because I went to that conference and I was stepping out. Now I can connect them with lots of other designers, or if people need a logo or whatever, I can be that person that can connect those other people. So when you're inside your industry, or you're in person or online, doesn't matter what, I would suggest going and being part of a group. Tom, you have a great Patreon group. You have these calls and they're amazing. I can't wait to get back into it next semester. That's when I'm able to do those things. But you do it. But you really talk and you get to know the people that are in your group, and they get to know each other. And I think that that's a really important thing, that people don't realize that these people in these groups could be your friends. Making friends online is really important. It's not, what you don't want is to go into a group and just be showboating. Like, I talked to somebody and he said one of his superpowers was listening. And one of the things he was having a hard time doing was that he was going to these LinkedIn groups and he was posting all the stuff that he could do. And I was like, well, that's you standing on stage. Why don't you listen and start commenting and responding and helping people, instead of saying, here's a video I made or whatever, right? Not that I think the videos are useful, but if you're only doing that feels like you're always on stage, and then people just feel like you're just pushing out content to them and you're not listening to them. Tom, you do this really well, that you really listen to the people who are talking to you, and then you make content that's connecting to that. You really connect with people. You talk to people about things you're struggling with as well. And I think, again, you don't always have to know everything. It's okay to ask. So I think in these groups...
Sorry, Diane, what was that? I missed what you were saying.
Oh, like...
No, I'm kidding.
Oh. I was like, well, maybe I cut out.
A little clip or a big...
I was being ironic. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I agree.
Okay, I was like, well, maybe I cut out. Okay.
Is that British sarcasm for you?
I know I suck at sarcasm. I'm so sorry. So here's some things that you can do. You can, one, just be present. So join a group and be present. Be there. See what's going on. You don't have to be a stalker, but just be present. You need to be consistent, meaning you go back every week. That's why I can't wait to go back to Tom's Patreon calls.
Yeah.
You need to be available. That means you're available to other people. So if people want to meet or people need to talk, that you're available to answer some of those questions. And I think you need to be helpful. You need to share your knowledge, your expertise, so that it helps other people. Not for money. You're just being helpful, right? And then you need to ask for advice from these same people, because then again, you're valuing them, and then you feel they value you as well. I think asking for advice is really important. You need to comment on other people's posts. You need to be personal. This is really hard for a lot of people, but this is what I've done so many times. And I've just made so many more friends by doing this. If we're in a group and they said something that really pulled on my heartstrings, or something I felt like I struggled with too, or something I wanted to ask them about, I just asked them for a video chat. They don't know me from Adam. Like they totally don't know me, but I've never had anybody say no. And I usually don't say no either if somebody asks me for a video chat. It's just like a piano or any kind of musical instrument. Just because they roll it into your house doesn't mean you know how to play it, right? You have to sit down and practice. This is something, why do we assume that we're going to be great, this networking thing, or making new friends, or building our network or our business? We just need to think of it just like playing an instrument. It's the power of practice. Again, like riding the bike. So do you guys think it's more important to be memorable or authentic?
Authentic, I'd say. Or yeah, I'd say authentic. I think people will remember if you are just who you are. I think you should try and be someone else.
I think so too. So I also think, like, it's kind of like going into the LinkedIn group and just being showboating. That's the memorable. You're memorable, but memorable doesn't always mean positive.
No,
but authentic
nice,
always is positive, I think.
Sure.
So
we could all wear our bras on the outside. That would be memorable, but not necessarily in a good way.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think when you're at a conference, you can recruit a stranger. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago. I didn't have anybody to eat with. So I just said, hey, to a stranger. They were wearing the little lanyard. I said, do you want to eat lunch with me? And they did. They didn't say no. I mean, that would be weird a little bit. Or I could have gone up to a group and said, hey, can I eat lunch with you? But I just chose a new stranger to meet. I mean, she was at the conference. It was a safe stranger. You can always, here's the out though. I always think we need an out. Like if you're in a situation in person, these are in-person outs. I guess they could be online too. But if you're in person, you can always say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Right? I have a really tiny bladder, so I always think that this is a good out. Nobody's going to follow you to the bathroom, I hope, right? If somebody's creepy, you can be like, oh, you know what? I have got to use a restroom. I'm so sorry. They're not going to follow you, hopefully. Oh, dear Lord Jesus. Hopefully they do not follow you to the bathroom.
Next time you say that to me in person, I'm going to be super offended.
No.
Yes, sure you do, Diane. Like, no, really,
I do. I do have a small bladder, and I have a small bladder right now too. But really what you're doing is you're able to make friends, and you're able to make friends for life. So then you have to continue to connect with them. You may feel like you're alone and you're in the middle and everybody's seeing everything you're doing and you're casting this super, really deep shadow, but really you're just in a mass of a whole bunch of other people that are just like you. So today is your mission, if you choose to take it, is to join a group online, and I would say commit to 30 days of being present, answering, and I'm not saying join 30 groups, just one group, and being present in that group. And then this is how to get in touch with me. You can @Design Recharge on everything, Diane Gibbs is my personal Instagram. And then that's my phone number. I know that's crazy probably, but this guy who,
oh my goodness.
This guy who I love, and he writes these books, his name's Bob Goff. He puts his real phone number in his books, and he says people just don't abuse it. So I've just started this too, because if somebody needed me, I would want you to reach out. Text me. I'm totally fine with that. I'm on iMessage, so you guys could do that too.
Diane, I want to link you up below this. What would you like me to link? Your website or your Instagram or what?
Rechargingyou.com is great. And
All
then they can always get in touch with me that way. I'm going to stop the share. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course it is. Recharging you. So rechargingyou.com.
Yeah.
All right.
But there we go. Close video. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I know it's super long.
No, it was awesome. Hold on, let me show that.
Awesome.
Recharging you.
Amazing.
There you go.
Thank you.
Everyone, as you can probably tell at this point, even though she's frozen, I think, Oh, can you hear us, Diane?
Gone. Oh, we're back.
You're back. Hello. You getting us, Diane?
Oh, we're there because that was an awesome talk.
It was. It was.
It's all gone broken up at the end.
Hello. You're back.
Sorry.
No worries.
It's all good. So as you can tell, Diane's pretty awesome. I love everything she puts out, as does Matt. And click the green button below this live stream. Everyone, check out her website. Go follow her on social. I saw a lot of love in the comments. People were really resonating with this, and I feel like if you haven't given it as a talk, you need to. This is like future TED Talk. I feel like, Diane.
I think so. Great takeaways there.
I way over 18 minutes though. Whew, they've kicked me off stage like 8 times.
It was great, honestly. Thank you so much for sharing that here first, and just super useful. I know it's a topic which so many creatives do need help with, resonate with.
Absolutely.
You broke it down super clearly, really engaging. Look at this. Katie's like, this has been amazing.
Yeah, it has been.
Text me, Katie. We'll do a call.
Yeah, and she means it. So, yeah, incredible. Leela, who revealed herself, Mischief,
I know.
Says, love you, Diane. Your energy is infectious. Yeah, we couldn't agree more. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That was a super fun, interactive session. And Diane,
thanks ever so much, Diane. You're brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope it was helpful. And I'm so sorry I went over.
No worries at all. It was brilliant.
Best.
Really good.
It was captivating. So anyone tuned in live as well, you will be able to catch the replay on our YouTube. I have a funny feeling this is going to be a pretty popular video.
I think so.
When we put it out there. But Diane, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, amazing.
Thank you so
Diane.
much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
Have a great day, design cutters.
Bye, guys. Take care. Take care of yourselves.